Man, I just can't figure out what game to review for Halloween. I've got plenty of horror-related games, but none of them seem right to review. Maybe my brother has a game. No. 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 What the hell is this doing here? Okay, where was I? No. Hey, what's this? Splatterhouse. That sounds promising. Let's try it out. Interesting title screen choice, guys. Okay, so Splatterhouse definitely doesn't waste time in showing just how gruesome and violent a game it is. When you're not looking at a menu full of guts, you're looking at a loading screen of two monsters trying to kill each other. So what is this game about anyway? Let me tell you. So in Splatterhouse you play as a guy named Rick. On a particularly spooky night, Rick follows his girlfriend into a creepy mansion for some reason. I guess he's there to meet some weird scientist or something.
Oh, and leave you alone in there with Dr. Weird?
So they're chatting about going to some concert.
Have fun. Look, I got us tickets for that concert at the Arkham
when they're
Ballroom,
interrupted with something, and before you know it, Rick is on the floor bleeding to death while Jenny gets kidnapped. All hope seems lost until a strange mask, voiced by Jim Cummings, tells Rick that he can help him.
Who am I? Let's just say I'm God. Your God. At least the only God that's listening right now. You're gonna have to learn to love the pain. There's a lot more of it to come.
Rick is transformed into a hulking monster, death metal music begins to play, and the game begins. So, what do you do in this game? Well, you kill stuff. Kill more stuff. Kill other stuff. And you kill stuff. Call it a beat 'em up, hack and slash, whatever. You kill stuff. Okay, so you kill things, there's lots of blood and violence, and you're ripping things' heads off. Man, fun. Violent, bloody fun. What's not to like? Okay, so the main game isn't all that interesting to me, but I did find something else. The original Splatterhouse game, an arcade game from the 80s that was notorious for the amount of blood and violence it had. You know what? Maybe this will be better. So the original Splatterhouse begins much of the same way. On a dark and spooky night, Rick and Jennifer find themselves in a creepy mansion. Rick is apparently killed, and Jennifer is kidnapped. That's when the mask comes and resurrects Rick, starting the game. The game is a side-scrolling platformer with some beat-em-up elements. Your goal is to navigate the mansion all the while dealing with its gruesome inhabitants. And boy is it challenging. With each stage comes more and more frightening enemies and challenges, each ending with a big boss fight. The first stage is sort of like an introductory level. It gets you used to the game mechanics. Your main attacks are punching, sweep kicking, and air attacking. But along the way you find weapons as well. There's a sliding kick maneuver, but it's a bit tricky to pull off, so I don't use it very often. You know, it's actually really impressive. There's tons of different death animations depending on what weapon you use, depending on what enemy you kill. It's really cool. You can tell they put a lot of work into this game, and that they might have been slightly insane. The boss of the first stage is a room full of these gross parasite things. Survive long enough and eventually the onslaught ends. Oh wait, there was one more. This won't be the first time the Slaughterhouse plays a trick on you when you think you're finished, so stay alert. The second stage is like a slightly harder version of the first one, still getting you into the groove of the game. One thing that's new is this water segment where you have to jump over spikes and kill these swamp monster things. The boss of this stage is a room. A haunted room, I guess you'd say. First you dodge the falling debris, then you fight a chair. Beat the chair and you're up against some haunted knives. Yeah, that's right, Rick is so tough he just punches knives. Finally you kill this haunted painting and you're home free. Oh, scratch that. The chandelier will fall and kill you instantly if you don't move out of the way. So do it all over again, move out of the way, and then you're home free. Stage 3 finds you outside. It introduces some new enemies such as bats and these annoying zombie dogs. And probably the most disturbing enemy in the game. These bloated fetus things. Ugh. Just look at it. But hey, you also get an awesome weapon, the shotgun. Mow down enemies, yeah. This makes the game too easy. Oh crap. Till you come up to the third stage boss, that is. Sorta reminds me of the chainsaw guy from Resident Evil 4, except this guy has 2 chainsaws. For hands. Your best bet here is to save up your shotgun ammo for the boss. Even then it won't be enough to take him down, so get a few more hits in and you should be done for. On to the next stage. Stage 4 is when things really start ramping up in difficulty. Along with your normal enemies, you've got to worry about these spinning blade things that move way too slow. If you fall down a hole, you'll have to go through an entire extra room full of these parasite things you fought earlier. And probably worst of all, a room of mirrors that creates doppelganger Ricks that all have the same moves that you do. So once you're able to get past all this without wasting all your lives, you're on to the boss. This time you're up against a floating upside down cross encircled with masks. Make sure you pick up the axe, you're doubtful to finish this boss fight without it. Although the masks are a pain, your main focus is the cross. Hit it enough times and you send this specter back to where it came. The ending to this level intrigues me. The music that plays, the setting, and the way that Rick just stands there, it almost makes it feel like the end of the game. But nope, you've still got to save your girlfriend. Alright, here it is, Stage 5. Although the rest of the game from here on out is hard as hell, this is probably the most difficult stage for me. Why? Okay, first you've got to get through a room of possessed chairs. Not too bad so far. But next, you've got to deal with a room full of piles of dismembered arms. Doesn't sound too bad at first, but believe me, this sucks. The holes are in between these sloped surfaces, so you can't stop and wait for the arms to be out of the way. If you try, you'll slide into the pit and die. The only way for you to get past this part unscathed is for you to play the room over and over again until you figure out the right pattern. Then, once you've memorized it completely, you can get through the room at a good even pace. But we're not done with Stage 5 yet. After that, you've got another water segment, but this time you don't have a weapon to help fend yourself off from the swamp monsters. Since the monsters have a longer reach than you, I suggest to use your jumping attack to your advantage. Next you have a mini-boss, this orange skull-face thing that summons zombies to attack you. There's something about this mini-boss that I really like. Maybe it's because the enemies here are more cartoony than gruesome. Anyway, the main problem here is that if you let him, he'll just resurrect all the enemies that you kill, and then even more on top of that. So what you have to do is attack him before he's able to finish his chant. What is he saying anyway? I'm the cooler. I'm Cthulhu. So once you've finished with this guy, you're still not done. There's one more room before the boss in Stage 5. In this final stretch, you need to deal with the regular monsters, zombie dogs, and now these ghost girls that drop skulls and laugh at you. Ugh, so annoying. But once you've finally gotten past all this, you've found your girlfriend? Well, sorta. Except that they turn her into a monster. Yeah, that's right. The boss of this stage is your own girlfriend. Thought that the previous rooms were tough? This is what really makes Stage 5 so difficult. It took me a while to figure out a good way to attack her without getting hurt. So I'm just going to cut the crap and tell you what to do. You see, unlike most bosses in, well, just about any game, you can actually touch her without getting hurt. So what you do is wait for her to do a high jump, meet her in mid-air, and then kick her in the opposite direction. That way when she lands and tries to attack you, she won't be able to reach. Seems like once you've got this strategy down, you should be good to go, right? Wrong. As the fight goes on, she changes things up, doing smaller jumps. This is what screws me up the most. I found out eventually that your best course of action here is to stand still and punch her, but even then it only works about half the time. This is a boss that you need to get lucky at when fighting. When you lose, you have to go through that hellish marathon of rooms that I described earlier, so you're going to get plenty of practice getting good at them by the time you beat this stage. Finally, when you do win, you've saved your girlfriend and you can go home, right? Nope, she apparently dies in Rick's arms and turns to dust. Well, I really wasn't expecting that, but then again, what can I expect from this game? So Rick jumps into a hole in stage 6? How the hell is there a stage 6? Your goal is to save your girlfriend and you sorta killed her. Oh well, here's stage 6. This time the entire stage is one giant hallway that leads to the boss itself. This is a double-edged sword. It's good because that means you don't need to go through a bunch of memorizations for different rooms like in stage 5, but it's bad because that means you're stuck with however much health you have when you get to the boss. Losing will lead you straight back to the beginning of the stage. Here you need to avoid and or kill these bubbles that drop from the ceiling and appear from the floor. Preferably you'll want to kill them since they turn into these annoying enemies if you let them. Not too much strategy to say here, just survive. Once you've reached the end you'll see what looks like a giant heart. Maybe it's the heart of the mansion? I guess if Rick should get revenge on anything it'd be the mansion itself. This thing takes about 1,000,000 hits, but its only real defense are those bubble things, so keep up your guard and just wail on the damn thing. Eventually it'll die. Oh, and for the love of God, step out of the way afterwards. That puddle of acid that the heart leaves behind will kill you. Nice try. Well, we're finally here, the final level of the game, Stage 7. So after all that, I bet you can only imagine what to expect now. Well, in Stage 7 you have two things to avoid. Flaming logs that roll across the ground, and flaming people that jump in groups. Neither of these are killable, this level is all about avoiding. But if you've gotten this far, then I'm sure your skills are honed enough to get past them. Just like in Stage 6, there's only one long stretch before fighting the boss. The final boss is this giant melty face that rises from the ground, causing rock debris to fly everywhere. After hitting him enough times, it returns to the ground and tries to attack you with his giant melty arms. It doesn't seem too hard at first, but once you realize that the flying rock debris fall in random locations and the arms start to come up more frequently, it becomes quite the challenge to avoid damage. On top of that, he has a lot of health, nearly as much as the heart from Stage 6. All I can say about the hands is that you should always run away from them and only jump to avoid if you have to, because after you dodge one from jumping, the other one's bound to get you. As for the falling debris, like I said before, they seem to fall in random places. So you really just need to keep trying until you get good at dodging his attacks and hope that a stray rock doesn't hit you too often. But oh, that last fateful attempt, you'll feel it, and when you land that last hit and you see that the boss is defeated, you'll be raising your fists into the air cheering. What looks like the spirit of whatever was haunting the mansion is released, and the credits start to roll. Whew, it's finally over. Well, what can I say about Splatterhouse? It's extremely challenging but satisfying as hell. For a game that came out in the 80s, the visuals are very impressive. And it's crazy to think a game as explicitly violent as this existed back then. Although I can kinda see why they went the beat-em-up direction with the remake, it's just too mind-numbing and monotonous. I mean, come on, ripping monsters apart shouldn't get dull. With the original Splatterhouse, you're always fighting some new enemy or noticing something different. Like here, it took me a while to realize that the dismembered arms flip you off. That's hilarious. In the end, I definitely prefer a very challenging game that requires the skills of time button pressing and memorizations of patterns, to a moderately challenging game that mainly requires you to grind for hours. So if you can somehow get your hands on the original arcade cabinet of Splatterhouse, or find the port for the TurboGrafx 16, or play through some of the remake and unlock it like I did, then I highly recommend you check it out. But I must warn you, this game is not for the faint of heart, or the faint of patience. Well, what are you doing watching this video anyways? It's Halloween. Go have some fun.